Hello, one and all, and welcome to a pre-Zendikar Rising episode of the Brewing Labs. Sorry for no silly intro sequence this time. I kind of had a struggle with this deck tech and such, and I'm trying to get ready with video content for the Zendikar Rising stuff. By the way, I'm actually going to be part of the early access stream on Wednesday. Thanks for Wizard of the Coast for providing me a free account. Awesome sauce. I get to try out the new expansion and do some very janky brews. I already got some up on the AverHub site, so if you want to check them out, you can check them out. Sorry, a little late where I'm at. Anyway, so we're actually going to try. I promised the people who are following my Twitter and such that I was going to make a Mardu control deck, and I think I got a pretty good one. And the way I'm actually going to do this is a pre-Zendikar Mardu control deck. But what I'm also going to do after we show off a gameplay of this deck is I'm actually going to go jump onto AverHub real quick and actually show my pre-Zendikar Mardu control, because there's actually a lot of nifty tools that we're going to get thanks to Zendikar Rising, as well as the dual lands that you really need, because playing a free color deck without dual lands is a little bit tricky, let's just say. Nevertheless, we decided to make this into a Yorion build because Yorion is still kind of my favorite little sky noodle. So pretty much our deck is an 80 card deck. Has about 35 lands. We'll get to the land shortly. But we start out with 2 Erebos' Intervention and 1 Purphoros' Intervention. I like Erebos' Intervention because it's good spot removal / graveyard removal. We also have Purphoros' Intervention just because it can be used as spot removal, but it can also be used as a finisher very late in the game. Sometimes we can use this as our lethal condition by just essentially making a giant elemental and just boop. Next up, we have Birth of Meltus. This is in here just to help us get planes in our deck and help filter our deck a little bit since, 80 cards. Plus making a wall and getting 2 life. That is lovely. We also have some eliminates in here for just early game spot removal. What I also put in here is Maze Mine Tome. I put this in here just because it's another card draw engine, plus also life gain. And there's even the synergy with Yorion that if we want to actually just get this to just free counters, we can reset it to just essentially with Yorion, which is a nice synergy. I also throw in 2 Banishing Life just as spot removal, Treacherous Blessing for card draw. We throw Veto for one of the Dusk Rose since we do have some life gain synergy in our deck, which can be used as another alternative for lethal. Since we do have the life gain, I throw in 2 Grim Tutors to help us tutor for stuff, especially since how big our deck is. It's kind of nice to have just a free mana, get our card we need for the circumstances, and just play it. We also put 2 Soul Seers in here just because it's a really good spot removal for mid-range creatures and planeswalkers. Your questing beasts and your annoying planeswalkers here and there. We also throw in free Shadow the Sky, just in case, because board wipes aplenty. We also throw 2 Liliana Wake of the Dead, just a great planeswalker to help pretty much just discard our opponent's hand, and then if we can get to the good at spot removal too, but if we can ultimate it, we could just pretty much reanimate our threats as well as our opponent's threats, which is nice. We also have 2 Doom Foretold in here. I put it as just a minor package in this deck because, well, it helps us sacrifice our Treacherous Blessing, which is nice, but it also just can be used in itself just as a way to essentially decrease the opponent's resources and such, make them constantly have to sack. It helps go around against kind of like the giant hexproof creatures and such in the format, like the Dream Trawlers and such. Plus also just essentially, it's a one that we do have constant resources to help essentially sack to the Doom Foretold. We also throw in 2 Snaptats, Apex of the Hunt, aka my favorite little kitty that can mutate. Mostly this is just in here because it helps us get life gain with Veto and such, but also it's in here because it synergizes well with Baneslayer Angel. For those who haven't seen the combo, you can actually mutate on a Baneslayer Angel and then essentially get 8 life and then just be able to swing in for 10. It's just ridiculously absurd and hilarious. Mostly that's one of our other game finishing combos in the deck. We also throw in free sad robots, mostly just to help us for mana fixing and all that, so nice to have that. Plus also bouncing in with Yorion is great. We also throw in 2 Elspeth Conqueror's Death, just because good spot removal, plus also reanimate our creatures, which is nice. Then we throw in 1 Shanra Heart of Fire, just mostly as another alternative card draw engine / also spot removal, being able to do incrementals of 2 points of damage, never hurts. And then we also throw our favorite Sky Noodle in the deck as well, just in case if we want to bounce like Treacherous Blessing or other spells to help us get card generation. We also throw in 2 Rollness Ultimatum as another board wipe in the deck, just pretty much can destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. Very nice. And then we also throw in one Ugin Spirit Dragon. I kind of debate about putting two, but I think I'm taking it for one, especially since we have other Planeswalker threats in the deck. As for our 35 land base, we have two Castle Ardenvales, 4 plains, 3 Castle Lock Plains with 4 swamps, 3 mountains, 1 Scoured Barrens with 2 Temple of Silence, 1 Blood-Filled Caves with 2 Temple of Malice, 2 Temple of Triumphs with 1 Windskull Crag, 4 Savai Trielms, 4 Fabled Passages, and 1 Field of Ruin, along with 1 Labyrinth of Skolos, or Skophos. Skophos. For some reason, I always pronounce it Skolos. Anyway, we're going to show off the deck just real quick, and then we'll get on to how you can tweak this deck when Zendikar comes around the corner. Mostly I just wanted to do this because I kind of wanted to show a deck that people can build into if they can't have access to Zendikar Rising cards yet, and then just pretty much show them how they can, start with this as their base, and then when Zendikar Rising comes out, then they could just build toward that variation of Mardu control. Now let's actually get to the games and show off this, games specifically, and show off this deck. There we go. We're going to get CSM, C-SM, or Underdash, I guess, better way to phrase it. This hand, actually surprisingly decent. We got this, we got early game spot removal, we got Sad Robot, we get the 4th land to play it, so that's a keep in our books. Ooh, and we even got a temple. Nice. Okay, let's see. Do we want to have a Fabled Passage on top? That is the question. I think the answer is no. I think we want to get some more gas, so to speak. Oh, Gagari shenanigans. Oh, ew. Well, I guess there goes by our Bertha Mellitus. It depends. If they take out the birth, then we'll just probably play the life gain land here. Though actually Savai Triumph makes a lot more sense against... Oh, they just take out the Sad Robot. Okay. We don't mind that. So yeah, I'll play it in. It's just this. Bertha Mellitus, go get a plains. There we go. So another plane, Agonizing Remorse. So, gotta be cautious. There's the second. Probably the board wipe, I'm guessing. They're thinking here. They decided to take out Perforos' intervention. Interesting. Well, in that case, we're going to play Temple of Malice. Do we want another Bertha Mellitus? I think so. Especially since our hand is kind of getting hated out just a teeny little bit, so the more mana we can get for later game plays, that's actually not bad. But what is our opponent playing is the question here. Okay, so they're playing kind of like a Gagari control deck. It looks like the case. So yeah, we're just going to gain some life. Play another Burk. Go get our second plains. Pass the turn to our opponent. Ah, Sultai shenanigans. Ooh, Acolyte of Affliction, eh? So yeah, probably just Sultai ramp if I have to make a guess, with a slight reanimation strategy. Yeah, especially since they got Fae of Wishes. Okay, so now that we know that's the game plan... Yeah, I think we just play Treacherous Blessing here. And grateful that we get a Ruinous Ultimatum, just in case they're trying to ramp to Ugin. But why are they going to try to Fae of Wishes here? Cultivate? Okay, so yeah, this is definitely smells like a ramp to Ugin plan. Which then makes me want to be cautious of the permanents I play, to be quite frankly honest. So we're going to scry here. We'll keep the castle on top. We'll just shatter since they know it's in our hand. there's the cultivate. So they have 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the second one. Guessing the rune is ultimatum, I'm guessing. Yep. Yeah, this pretty much screams I'm ramping to Ugin. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do this. And we are going to pass the turn. Good thing is that's like 3 of their agonizing remorses, so presuming that they're not playing anything like Necromentia or some shtick like that, we should be in the clear close. They might still have like 1 more agonizing remorse in their deck. But they might be just holding up counter magic against when we try to inevitably Yorion or some shtick like that. So we gotta keep that in mind. I think we still attempted though. See if they try to counter it. They don't have counter magic. Okay, that's good to know. Well, there's Murder's Rider. Hey, we still get our game plan off, so we're gonna draw some more cards, restock our hand. And we get 2 Lilianas. Ooh. This game just got a little interesting. Okay, let's see what our opponent does here. Okay, then maybe Sultai Reanimator? Waker of the Waves is definitely something you don't really see usually. Unless somebody's doing Reanimator shtick. So we have 5 cards on our graveyard. We gotta keep that in mind. Ooh, they make us discard 2 cards. I think I'm just gonna discard this. They are being very cautious of not casting their creature here. So yeah, we're gonna cast a Liliana. We're in the discarding plan, eh? Well, you can participate in this activity, opponent.
We're doing things my way.
And now that we took out that, I'm actually a lot more safer in playing the veto here. You don't even know what this does. So whenever it attacks, if defending player has 2 or fewer cards, it has flying. Okay. So this is kind of like a budget Sultai control deck is what I'm guessing. The opponent might still have Ugin in hand, but they're probably being cautious of it, especially since they know we have Banishing Light in our hand to deal with it. Ooh, Ashiok. Okay. What are they going to bounce is the question.
And dream of me.
Makes sense. I'm going to make a Zetsale card. We'll do Erebos' Intervention, since we haven't really seen any Uros from them. Though I will give the opponent credit where credit's due. If they were just like holding on their Uro until Erebos' Intervention was out of our deck, I'll give kudos what kudos is due if that was the case. Anyway, so yeah. We're just going to pin ourselves, say bye-bye to Ashiok, because that's going to be a pain in the butt if we don't. And then I think we just play this out. Do some more discarding.
You wish you had a fraction of my power.
I think we have to discard this, unfortunately.
I really don't
Pass the
care
turn
about
to our
your
opponent.
plans.
I'm kind of wanting to do the discard there because we're trying to make it where our opponent does not have the opportunity to Fey of Wishes bounce it back to their hand and such, so we got to be very cautious of that. So yeah, our opponent's going to attack into Liliana. We're going to block the veto because makes sense. And they play a land, and then they play the Fae. Okay. So we're going to play a land. We're going to play a Baneslayer Angel because Baneslayer Angel. And we got a choice here. We have currently 9 cards in our graveyard. We could just minus this and get Fae out of the picture. Make sure that we don't have to deal with it. Actually, yeah, I like that play a lot better. That way, if they find a way to draw, like, 2 cards and such, then they can't, like, bounce it to their hand and recast it and such, so I like that play. Now, the problem is if they top deck an Ashiok, we're in a pickle. Lucky enough, they did not. Okay. And our opponent scooped since we got the lock. Whew. Yeah, that's kind of the main thing with this deck. You kind of have to play it where you can get into a locking position. Nevertheless, I hope that shows off the deck, so we're now going to go to Aether and show what Zendikar Rising is going to provide for this deck tech. Bada beep, bada boop. Hey there, I'm now back, and we're going to actually show off this pretty much post Zendikar kind of like variation of Mardu control. This is one that I'm actually going to try out during the early access stream, so let's actually get to it. First thing though, what I want to talk about though is actually the land base. As you notice here, we're actually doing a 25 land base rather than a 35 land base like we would have. The main reason for that is because a majority, like the 10 additional lands we have in the deck are actually the modal split cards. Once we show off the deck, you'll kind of will see them. But for so far, the non-modal land cards we have in the deck, we have the modal dual land specifically that helps us tap for the Mardu mana, aka Blight Climb pathway, as well as Needleforge pathway. We throw in 1 Castle Ardenvale and 2 Castle Lockplains. I don't want to get too greedy with this castles, especially since we are these lands to help us with the free colors. They don't consider themselves a land type, so it does make playing these type of lands a little bit tricky. We also have free Fabled Passages to help us filter through our basics, which in this case we have 1 mountain, free plains, and free swamps, and then we also have Savai Triumphs in the deck. Now, as for the deck itself, this is where it gets a little interesting. I'm actually going to do a little post-editing camera movement here, so... Woo! Magic! Anyway, as you can actually see here, technically the color breakdown is it's a splash of red with... Technically, it says there's a splash of blue, but that's because Yorion is in the deck, but we're mostly doing Mardu, so just keep that in mind. But as you can see, it's primarily an Orzhov deck with a little bit of a red splash. So, the way that this deck works, as you can tell, the curve is mostly high on the 4-drops, but you'll see why in a minute why that's the case. Anyway, we start with Erebos' Intervention, just a great card for the deck, as we mentioned before. And then we actually are doing one of the best early game removals that pretty much helped us remove Eliminate from the deck, though I would say you could probably put it in your sideboard still. Blood Chief first, just the fact that it removes all the early 1 to 2 drops in the deck, very nice. This is going to be the way that we're going to deal with stuff like Lotus Cobra, potentially, since I think Lotus Cobra is going to be a very popular card. So Blood Chief's verse is very nice, plus the kicker on it is amazing to help us deal with late game planeswalkers and such, so don't underestimate Blood Chief's first. It's a really nifty card to have in the upcoming meta. We didn't go down a 2 buff for Meltus, mostly because we have other ways to just fetch for our basics and other lands in the deck, plus also the modal lands helps out quite a lot. But I still like this to help us get at least some planes and such, so that we can make sure we have the second white pip for, like, the 2 white spells, and even the 3rd white pip for the Ruinous Ultimatum that we have as a 1-of in the deck. Then we have Mazemind Tome still, just to help us card draw. Then here we get to one of our first kind of like modal spell land splits, which is the Mythic cycle Shadow Skull Smashing. This is just a perfect modal spell for the deck. It just helps us to get spot removal. And if we need to play it as a land, we can play it as a land without a sweat. But being able to have this Etz ability to essentially deal Etz damage to up to target creatures or planeswalkers, very nice. This is pretty much our main replacement of Purphoros' intervention. Though I could see an argument for still keeping it in the deck as an alternate win condition, but overall, Shadow Skull Smashing this card's going to see a lot of play. I have a very good hunch that this card will see a lot of play. Next, we have Null Priest of Oblivion as a 2 of, just a really good early game drop, but also late game we can reanimate some of our creatures that go into the graveyard and such. Very nice. We also have Veto, Form of the Dusk Rose, just because it's our alternate win condition. We also have an additional tool for that, but we'll get to that once we get to it. We also throw in 2 Treacherous Blessing this time around, just for the card draw engine. Then we have Agadine's Awakening, that's our auto motor spell that we're playing, that's a sorcery and a spell. Just a massive reanimation spell, can help us restock in the late game if we go against a board wipe and such. So very nice for the deck. We also throw in some Nighthawk Scavengers. This is just a great card in general because we're going to be removing a lot of stuff. We're going to be hating cards from our opponent's hand using stuff like essentially Liliana and such, and just spot removal, so this can get big really quick. And at the worst, it's still a 1/3 flying Death Touch lifelink. So just being able to essentially be on the defensive with this creature, very nice. Then we have a few of the one card that is perfect for this deck, Archon of Amelia. Flying 2/3, each player can't play more than one spell each turn, so helps us against storm matchups. And in non-basic lands, your opponent, keyword your opponent control, enter the battlefield tap. So hopefully if we're not going against the mirror match, we can actually play with this card essentially, and then all of our opponents are going to be trying out the new Moto lands and such, including the ones that enter and untap. Well, this is just going to encourage them to keep slow, plus also it makes the castles go untap. And Fabled Passage. I think people are going to be thrown off by this card, especially making Fabled Passage and stuff like Evolving Wilds enter and tap. So that's going to help affect some curves and such. So this is definitely going to be an all-star in the meta, in my personal opinion. Then we have stuff like Valakut Exploration. That's kind of our second card draw engine, and the reason why I went down to 2 Treacherous Blessing, because Valakut Exploration is just another nice card draw engine of sorts, plus also allows us to deal incremental burn damage. We also have 2 Shatter the Sky in here. We went down 1 because we are throwing in the modal card Ondu and Virgin as just our other board wipe, kind of like our second Ruinous Ultimatum, essentially. Then we go to 2 Solum Simulacrums to still help us with the mana fixing, 2 Liliana Wake of the Dead because it's just a really good card, 2 Doom Foretold for obvious reasons. We also have Snapdats to just essentially synergize with our early game lifelink creatures and such. I mean, heck, putting Snapdats on a Nighthawk Scavenger is kind of silly. Another modal spell land we have is Hagra's Mauling. It can either enter and tap or just be a modular unconditional removal spell for creatures, which very nice. We also have 1 Felidar Retreat in here, just as another way to get kind of like resources and such, just build up our board presence and such, especially if we get into kind of like a land, essentially, if we get land flooded and such, and just pretty much transfer our lands into just little cat beast tokens, which is perfect for the deck. We also threw in some Archons of Sun Grace, since we do have enchantments in the deck, so it allows us to get more Pegasus, and another thing we can evolve Snapdats onto. We also have essentially Shanra Heart of the Fire, so just another, as we stated before, good card draw. We go down to 1 Yorion, though you could make an argument for going to 2 still, just to be safe. Then we have Elspeth Conquers Death, and then 1 addition to the deck that synergizes really well with our life gain / veto / Snapdats and such, and Archons of Sun Grace, Angel of Destiny. Angel of Destiny just does a ridiculously nice synergy with Veto, where anytime, yeah, we're both going to gain life, technically speaking, when damage is dealt to the opponent, but still the opponent is still going to get a net negative out of it, because when they're going to gain life, but then when we gain life from it, Veto will just drain them and such, so just a really nice synergy with Angel of Destiny and Veto. Like, if you probably are going to see this in the life gain, Orzhov life gain decks, this type of synergy, because it actually works really well, plus also Angel of Destiny just being an alternate win condition. Then we have Ruinous Ultimatum, and then our last modal spell, Shockland, Call of Emeria. We have this in as a 2 of, just because late game, just getting 2 4/4s and making our creatures indestructible is really nice. And of course, we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon in here because, well, Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Really powerful card. Get to it, it helps you keep the board state pretty well. Nevertheless, that is the deck, and I'm definitely going to try this along with another variety of janky brews for the early access event. I'll be doing that on Wednesday at 6:30 Central Time in pretty much Central Time. So I'm going to try to start the event, and we're just going to spend the next like 3 to 4 hours just doing like janky brews and such. So I hope you all can attend. If and nevertheless, I hope you enjoy the shenanigans of Zendikar Rising, as well as the shenanigans of these deck techs. So I hope you all have a lovely day. This is Lebda, signing out. Bada beep, bada boop.